Thank you very much for coming to another GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup. It's my utmost pleasure to see all of our attendees and our today's speaker, which is Dylan Culhane. Hello, Dylan. Tell us, how are you today? Are you excited over the talk? Today we're going to be talking about some interesting things, right?
Yes. Hi, Maya. Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot. I am very excited. I'm very passionate about this stuff. There's a lot of ground to cover. So I'm hoping just to give like a very quick overview of some of the important stuff, not expecting everyone to just immediately absorb all this knowledge, but hopefully want to communicate a sense of how easy design can be and how it can potentially be used by you as a designer or developer to add to your offering to customers, in particular with the Over by GoDaddy product that we're going to focus on today.
That is awesome. Actually, it's a very funny story how Dylan and I met, but what brought us together is, and this is how we decided that the month of April we will totally dedicate to content understanding and improvement. And when I was making the list of what type of content we could discuss, Dylan came up with the idea of talking about video content. So Dylan, without further ado, because you're going to tell us so many interesting things and you will show so many beautiful visuals with us, without further ado, please tell us, you being a creative expert, right? How do you perceive content? What is, how would you divide it, and how would you see the video content being part of it?
I mean, content is very famously like a broad term, and it can be confusing for someone who works in the field of content. It's difficult describing it sometimes because it means different things to different people. But at the end of the day, I think if I had to distill it down, it's about communication, it's about messaging, it's a continuation, I guess, of, you know, cave paintings up on the walls from tens of thousands of years. There's just one ongoing evolution of how we use words, images, music, and more recently things like video to communicate a message, to make people feel something. And yeah, it's something we do. We all create content in our social media feeds. So it's something, it's a kind of a currency that we use for communication. And obviously it's super important for small businesses to get it right, because particularly as I'm going to talk about today, we live in the attention economy, you know, where there's so many people putting out stuff. It's so difficult to get noticed. And so visual content is like, you know, one of the best ways to really stand out from the crowd and get noticed, which is essential if you want to grow your business.
Awesome. Look, although we've been discussing, and there was a series of introduction videos that I've released online, and although I've actually gone through many details with you, I'm so eager to see actually today's presentation. So please, Dylan, the floor is yours, and let us learn something new and let us improve our business habits and businesses that we have. Thank you very much.
Well, hopefully that will be the case. Thanks. Let me just, oops, there's a parallel dimension there. Are you able to see my screen? Maya, can you hear me? Oops.
I can hear. Sorry, I can hear you, but I'm not able to unmute myself all of a sudden. No, we see the depth screen. We don't see.
Okay, because once I go into this mode, I can't see you anymore, so I'm just going to...
this is cool.
And on that note, because I can't see anybody at the moment, I'm just going to assume that you're still awake. And if you have any questions, just please shout them out. And Maya, maybe you can, you know, let me know if anyone has something to say.
Sure, I will moderate the chat. No issue at all. Thank you very much.
So thanks. As I said, I'm Dylan. I'm the content strategist at Over by GoDaddy. And I'm going to talk a bit about the power of brand identity in a visual world. Maya mentioned video in the beginning. This does, of course, include video, but I'm going to speak more generally just about visual content, and later in the chat a little bit more practically about the Over by GoDaddy product and how you can start using it today very easily to do the things I'm going to talk about. So just very briefly, Over by GoDaddy, it was previously Over, a startup, and was recently acquired by GoDaddy, hence the Over by GoDaddy. And it's the design app for non-designers. And it's really there to help the everyday entrepreneur stand out from the crowd with beautiful design. And as I'm going to explain, it's super important that you get noticed. It's the first step to doing business, to gaining customers. And in the visual world that we live in, good designed visual content is the best way to get people's attention and to start engaging with customers. So visual content, the way I see it, it's your brand's currency in the attention economy. I'm also going to talk about how, visual content can be so many things, as I said in the beginning. So you really need to set your parameters and find your unique style, create a brand identity, and that helps you navigate the world of visual communication. Finally, I'm just going to show you a little bit more practically about how you can create beautiful, professional visual content with Over by GoDaddy. So even though this is a very visual presentation, this is just a little bit of context that you may have to read. But it's just something I refer to a lot in this talk about the attention economy. And don't worry too much about this sort of this Wikipedia extract. It's more just to raise the idea that, as we all know, when you're on Instagram, online, looking around for different brands, there's just thousands, perhaps millions of images uploaded every day. And so standing out from the crowd, particularly in an economy that's run on information, it's essential that you gain people's attention, because that's ultimately what everyone is vying for these days. So the way I see it is, well-designed visual content gives you a fighting chance in the attention economy, and showing up professionally and consistently is the surest way to gain attention and trust. We all know this. I mean, there's data I could try and find, and we don't have too much time, but I think we just know this instinctively, that when you're looking around for someone that you want to do business with, first impressions count. I mean, the same things apply to just meeting somebody, by chance. Human beings are very finely tuned to first impressions, and I think if you show up professionally, consistently, that's the surest way to associate your brand with trustworthiness, which is a precursor to us doing business with you. So zooming out, maybe getting a little bit philosophical for a moment, I'm just trying to drive home the point of why visual content is so powerful versus, for example, written content, which dominated the sort of early stages of the internet. But where we are right now, visuals are everything. And the way I see it is that our lizard brain is a visual brain. So being primitive humans walking through the jungle, it was things like noticing the red snake in the tree, or the poisonous yellow spider that could alert you to danger, or knowing where to find food, when the red berry blossoms in the tree. And your eye can pick up these things very, very easily. Similarly with the human expression, the human face, I think we all know if you've had your partner is slightly angry with you, but you're not sure exactly why. It's very, very, very subtle cues in the face that alert us to this. And we don't have to sort of read or spend a lot of time gaining this information. It happens in an instant. Being seen also improves your chances of survival. Things like, birds and many animals, like they need to get noticed in order to continue their existence. And we see the same thing perhaps in the modern business world, where looking good, the things you wear, the watch, the sunglasses, the car, the tie, all these things matter in terms of creating an impression. And of course, your identity helps you to find your place in the world. I think we associate, we've got these instant associations with how we see people, and that's very important for psychologically for belonging. And then finally, just, we can't escape the fact that imagery, visuals, art, photography, it just hits us so directly and emotionally. looking at a picture of a beautiful scene just in an instant can take us there. And of course, we all know the expression of a picture says 1,000 words, but it does so in an instant. So it might take you several minutes to read 1,000 words, but that sort of metaphorical 1,000 words can just hit you, all of a sudden. The image on the right, one of my favorite photographers, it just asks so many questions and creates so many stories in your mind that it really keeps you intrigued. It stops you, in the midst of so much information that we're receiving. You pause to think, to consider, to engage. I'll run through this very quickly because it's kind of peripheral, but particularly focusing on social media. Brands that get it really right, they publish really good content. So you can't just put out anything. It's got to inspire, inform, entertain us. They have a distinct identity, which we're going to get into just now. You can't just put any random pictures all the time. People aren't going to know what that means. It won't make sense to them. Aesthetics are important. A defined pool of topics. In other words, just not talking about everything. You need to sort of bring your message, make it a little bit more focused. Actionable content, that speaks a lot to design too, when you need to say, enter now or 25% sale. You need to know like what is happening, and visual content gives us those cues immediately. Wary of time, I'm going to skip that next bit because it's a little bit, it moves away from the visual side. I just called up these couple of examples because it's just, creates a visual example of what I was just talking about. When you encounter a brand that's doing it right on social media, instantly you get a sense of their personality, you get a sense of what they're about. You'll know instantaneously this is the type of brand for me or not. And it happens, particularly in our Instagram feeds, just within a second, we know what we're dealing with. And all of these brands just, purposefully were very small local brands that I found. They're not, you don't have to be a big professional, multi-million-dollar brand to get this right. These are all small brands that use over or similar products. And there's just a few basic things that if you get right, it really counts for a lot. So I know that design can be an intimidating term, the way it gets used, it sort of gets associated with art, and you need to know exactly what you're talking about. There's very specific tastes, but I don't see it that way. It's not rocket science. There's some very safe formulas and guardrails that you can use, that you can follow. But I do really believe in trusting your visual instincts, because we're all exposed to so many images and videos and visual content every day that, you're probably better attuned to it than you might realize. We all have very specific tastes. And if something looks good to you, then, there's a very good chance it'll look good to other people. All right, so this is just a visual impression of what we're going to get into now about how you can create a consistent brand identity. Let's work through a basic formula. And for me, getting a brand identity right always starts with your story, because ultimately all the visuals, all the colors, all the designs we're going to use to communicate something, that thing that it's communicating is your story. It's what makes your brand unique. It's what makes people care about it. And your brand story emerges where meaning and difference overlap. So in other words, the meaning is, why are you doing what you're doing in the first place? What value does it add to the world? What value does it add to you and I? And then, of course, difference. How do you stand out? Why are you different? Why should we choose you over anybody else? And if you can find that sweet spot, I think that's where your brand story starts to emerge. Another way to think about, coming up with your brand story is just to look at 4 truths. So there's your truth, the unique product, service, or characteristic that gives your story its roots. There's a certain truth about the audience, a need or desire that only you can satisfy. There's the truth of the moment. I mean, your business exists in a particular space and time. Why is it useful? Why is it relevant to the world here and now? And then, of course, the truth of your mission. Beyond profit, why are you doing what you're doing? So this was a simple example we did a little bit earlier with Over, where we took a hypothetical brand called Acacia, and we said it was a sort of skincare product. And, I won't read through it all, but essentially we drilled down into each of those truths. And ultimately, going through that exercise, you should be able to arrive at a brand story. So at the top right here, you see love the earth and the earth will love you back. So all these 4 truths kind of distill into one core message. And then from that point, you can start to develop a brand board. On the left here, you see sort of grouping together the specific colors and fonts and images that your brand uses. And with that as a solid foundation, you can start to create very unique, beautiful visual content by simply applying these specific, the brand identity that you've developed into templates. And I'm going to show you how that works very shortly. So this is just an example. If we can even take that same expression or that same brand truth, and depending on your brand's identity, that can manifest in different ways. So a logo is typically the first thing that a lot of small brands, that it's the first thing they want to do. It makes you feel like it's a real thing, and it's important because it's kind of it's the flag that you fly out in the world. It's your signature, and ultimately everything we do from this point, looking at logos, fonts, colors, that all has to originate from your story. So your story will form the foundation of your logo. The simplest way to do a logo is just by writing the word out in a beautiful typeface. But of course, different typefaces evoke different associations. So at the top here, the sans serif fonts are very modern and, for progressive, innovative brands. Display fonts are friendly and expressive. They can even be amusing. Serif fonts at the bottom represent tradition and respectability. And modern fonts are progressive, strong, and stylish. So one word written in a number of different ways instantaneously evokes very different feeling. Another very simple way to approach a logo would just be to take a logo type. So just to take the first letter of your brand and apply that. And as you can see, even just something as simple as that, there's a lot of different ways to take it. So when you're coming up with your logo, there's a few perspectives you could look at. It could either be something literal. So if you're an optometrist, you show sunglasses, or a surf brand has a surfboard. It could be more lateral. So something like a tree signifies growth, or a sunrise signifies kind of a new dawn in your industry, or something like that. You could go the narrative route, which speaks to something very personal to your brand. So maybe it's the specific farm where your product comes from, or the owner's beloved dog, where the name came from. And of course, you could take it an abstract route, which is more just about a feeling and sort of more design based. And just by the way, everything that I'm showing you here has been created in Over. So all these graphics exist in Over, and they can be created very easily, like literally in minutes. Okay, moving on to fonts. There's a lot to say here, so I'm just going to sort of whiz over it very, very basically. But something I heard recently, which was quite funny, was that accents are just mouth fonts, and I like that idea because it's almost when you see a font, you kind of read it in a different way. It sounds different to your ear, or to your mind's ear. So Over has something like 500 different fonts, and it's quite a fun process to go through and choose specific fonts that really speak to the style of your brand. Just as a point in terms of realizing how specific, the power of fonts. If we had to look at a company that was an investment company called Acacia Investments, I think the one on the left is probably more likely to get my business than the one on the right. So it's the same word, but it's just the font makes a world of difference. Another thing just to realize with fonts is that you really just need to choose, one or two, or rather, preferably 2 or 3 fonts that work together, and look out for fonts that pair well together. And once you've got those 2 or 3, they become part of your brand kit, and you never have to worry about choosing fonts again, because whenever you create a post, whenever you create some design for your website, you know specifically which fonts you're going to use because they're part of your brand identity. Colors, again, I could probably do a 3-hour talk about colors because it's just such a magical part of life. You know, when you talk about adding color to something or adding color to a description, or this guy was a very colorful person, there's something about an energy, something about a personality, and colors where your brand can really come into its own. Colors definitely have association. So I think on a deep level, we all kind of know these things. You know, yellow is very optimistic, whereas, you know, blue is very secure and reliable. So these are important things to think about when it comes to establishing your brand. If you're a corporate brand, you know, blue in terms of trustworthiness and security is probably a good option, whereas red, you know, you'd have to think twice about that if you're a very established brand, because red typically is very exciting, young, and bold for us. I won't get too deep into color theory, but I just, you know, the point is that, again, it isn't rocket science. You know, once you've decided on a certain type of color that you'd like to work with, there's certain techniques that you can use on the color wheel to just help you find out which colors work well together. And from that point, you can start to build color palettes. So the 4 options on the left would be probably better suited to an elegant brand. And you can see how different those are to the palettes for a bold brand on the right. All right, so images, again, as I established right at the beginning of this chat, they're all important in the world of visual communication. The same would apply to video. Video only just makes it even more impactful when images come to life. But you know, more often than not, the image will be the centerpiece of the design. It creates such an important impression. And so it's worth just considering what your brand is all about when making image selections. So again, all these images are available in Over. They're from Unsplash. They're all royalty-free images. But you can see the difference compared to, say, a street brand, to more of a playful brand, or a bold brand, or a minimal brand. I mean, those images just create such a completely different impression for each one. Just another quick product punt of Over by GoDaddy. It's really good at as an image editor too. So in this example, I took just one, you know, pretty ordinary stock image from Unsplash, and I just used Over's different graphics and photo editing techniques to take that same image and create it in 6 very different ways, which would suit 6 very different brands. And then graphics, you know, it's one thing, you know, when Over started, like the origins of Over was just picture with words on it, you know, and that's good to a point. But I think what really starts to bring your visual content to life is adding graphics. You know, on the right here, you just see a small sample of some of the tens of thousands of graphics there are in Over, and they all have a very different impression. And again, it all stems from your brand story, your brand style, and there's a lot to choose from. But graphics really just bring your visual content to life, and you can see just from this little zoomed out view how these graphics tend to catch the eye. You know, putting all these things together, you start to get closer towards a brand identity. You know, on the top left here, we're looking at a street brand. These are some options for color palettes. On the right are some good options for street style graphics. We've got some street style fonts over here, and then at the bottom left, a logo for a street style brand. So little by little, as you start to assemble these different elements, the fonts, the colors, the graphics, you can see we're moving closer towards a coherent brand identity. And that's where you can start to develop something like a mood board. So perhaps you're a more elegant brand or you're a playful brand. You can instantaneously, you know, just at a glance, see the different personality that these 2 brands might have. And ultimately, you're moving towards creating a brand identity, a full brand kit, which originates with your story, and then just applying that story to some basic decisions about colors, fonts, graphics. You start to develop a brand board. And once you have a brand board, you can start to develop your own templates. And you see, this is just a sample, but you know, this starts to feel like a unified brand. It starts to feel like a professional brand, a brand that we can trust, a brand that, you know, if this particular aesthetic appeals to you, it's a brand that you would click on, a brand that you would perhaps want to do business with. So going back one step, this might seem like, you know, it's very beautifully designed, and you might think, okay, well, it's one thing to pick, you know, a color and a font, but how do I create really cool, you know, professional looking design like this? And that's where, you know, that's the secret trick with Over. It's using templates and layout collections. I like to think about it as training wheels for the non-designer. So within Over by GoDaddy, there are thousands and thousands of templates. And, you know, templates do the hard work for you. You know, we have professional designers who put them together. It's all obviously created with Over by GoDaddy. And so all that, you know, all the technical stuff of aligning things and making sure the image is right and the composition and the balance and that all looks good, that's done for you. And all you need to do is then select one of these templates and start applying your own fonts, your own colors, your own imagery, but using that basic design structure that's been set up in the templates. And currently templates are available on web, and coming very soon, what we already have in the mobile app version is layout collections. And this goes one step further by collecting a group of templates in different formats. So it could be, you know, for Facebook posts, for Instagram stories, for Twitter headers. There's a whole range of applications, but they're already in a very consistent style. So it becomes quite easy for you just to edit these in a matter of minutes, change the color, change the font, but use the design foundations that have been established. And so, you know, quicker than you think, you can be creating really powerful, beautiful visual content that's definitely going to work wonders for your brand. So I'm going to jump into just, we can take a little breather there, because personally, you know, that was a lot. But just to let you know, I'm going to show you more of a demo briefly on Over Web, only because that's currently integrated already with GoDaddy websites and marketing. So this is the web version, but you know, how can I put it? You know, Over was originally an iOS first mobile app. So there's a whole bunch of features on the iOS app, things like removing background with a single button, things like selecting different color palettes, multiple pages. Those are all in existence in the mobile app. They're trickling into the Android app, and little by little rolling out into the web app, which was the sort of the third addition to the Over family. So within a matter of months, you know, all of these standards should be, all of these features should be standardized across all platforms. But that's just a little bit of preamble, just to let you know that some of the features I'll show you in web are a little bit limited. But if you are, I'm hoping you'll be keen to explore the mobile app in particular. There's just there's so much there. So before I get carried away, Maya, I'm just going to pause and see if there are questions or anything you'd like to say at this point.
Excuse me, it takes time before the platform actually applies the changes. I think it's, first of all, I'm totally surprised with the beauty that I saw. Thank you very much for this first part of the presentation, because it really gave us a hint what content could be, because we see content a lot. We're surrounded by content, but at the same time, you don't notice all these changes. They do affect us, but subconsciously. For instance, when you showed this between the casual and for the capital fund, right? The font was such a significant decision maker already for me without me even knowing that that's happening. So these conclusions that we actually get from from different type of visuals that we're exposed to are actually building our brand images, right? And building our perspective as well of those images. I didn't see any questions at the chat. I just saw kudos actually for the slides. So that's, I'm really impressed, seriously. So I'm sure that if someone would have a question, they would ask that. Otherwise, I think you're doing a great job. You're leaving everyone speechless. That means that's awesome. I think that's another kudo coming there.
You never know if speechless is a good thing or a bad thing, but but yeah, just on that point, I think, you know, I just wanted to, and I hope I made it clear that it's just that there are a few important things to do up front that are just going to save you so much time and effort in the future. Because if you just wake up every day and say, oh no, we need to post some cool content, and you just come up with something in the moment, you know, that isn't going to look great for you, and it's just going to take you more time and energy. So like with most things, if you do a little bit of the basic work up front, it clears the path, makes it much easier in the future.
Correct. I can see in the chat, James already downloaded and it looks great for him. Well, I've been using it for almost a year. And I'm impressed with, actually we have a corporate template, so it's so easy for me to actually come up with a branded content that has been approved at the same time. So, and it has the constant branding and messaging, and it has the same concept, so I don't have to actually constantly change it and then reintroduce new branding. So I find it very, very easy to use, and at the same time some cool effects that I'm using. And thank you guys for doing that. You're really making my job much easier. But what we wanted actually to also to have one key takeaway, which you mentioned during your talk, was that we would like to encourage people who are not designers, who are not creative, who don't have this art background, to use the application and actually develop or even discover their own skills which they have for creating graphic or video content. A small business owner. When you're a business owner, you're actually at the same time, you're running to get the clients, you're doing the operational things, you're doing the technical things, you're trying to have a life, and you're trying to succeed in the markets and everything. And you really don't have the time to learn all these things. With Over, it's so simple actually, without any technical knowledge, without any knowledge like relevant to Photoshop, Corel, or any other program. This is so easy to come up with something that is beautiful and appealing. So this is actually the push for the small and medium enterprises to get a grasp or get a grip of this application and understand how they can succeed in business by using it. So I can continue talking, and I'm sure, I mean, last time when we spoke like for 2 hours. So basically you and I think we can talk about this until the night is gone. But maybe we should actually return to your presentation and then see later on in the end if there are any questions. Thank you.
Sure. Let me see if I can get this right now.
Sure, I'll stay online. I will not I will not go to the presenter mode.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, design editor we can see.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, all of that was kind of just upfront. It's worth having that knowledge, you know, before you start designing in Over, just so you know what you're doing. But let me just give you an idea of the basics. As I said, you know, templates are the easiest way in, and we have these professionally designed and curated, and we have just thousands and thousands of them. So I don't know, maybe Maya, you know, just to prove that I'm not like pre-planning this too much, you know, if anyone has a suggestion for the type of post that we could make, I'll just show you how easy it is to respond. So whether it's a sale or a Instagram story or a YouTube thumbnail or I don't know if anyone's got an idea, and we can start with that.
Well, I would leave these ideas to our participants. I talk too much, and that means that I shouldn't get involved this time. So I'm leaving the floor to our participants. So is there any proposal, guys, coming from your side that what you would like? We'll give some time for people to type the visual typing content.
I'm not hearing. Am I still? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's say we're looking to do, well, let's say you're a yoga brand. You know, you could either look for a Facebook template and we'll give you the format. But let's say you're a yoga
New
brand.
home. Okay, we have Elizabeth saying new
home.
listed for sale. New home listed for sale. Ho ho.
Okay,
Well, Elizabeth, he didn't know this. So this is a new. This is a catch now. He didn't know this is coming. So let's see how he's prepared.
Okay, what do we got here? Okay, so it's is this for like a property, like an estate agent?
Well, perhaps let's say a house owner is listing a house for sale.
Oh, right. I gotcha. So let's say,
or perhaps an agency if you find wherever. So you would
sure,
sale. This is what you would type, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking at. Oh wait, let me just look. In fact, let me just go estate agent because that will take me into the right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
yeah, that one with the swimming pool suits me totally.
Not bad. I wouldn't mind that. Let's see.
Elizabeth, if this is your house, we would like to come.
A bit expensive, but probably a good deal. Okay, so instead of saying just sold, of course, we're going to say it's for sale. So instantly we change that. And just to be different, let's use a different font. Whoops. Just get my...
Why did you choose font here? Why did you choose this font? You had a talk about font and you choose this one. Why this one?
Well, I mean, for starters, it caught my eye, and I don't have a lot of time to decide right here on the spot. Mm-hmm. But I do think, if we think about it, this is a very modern home, and this is a very modern font. So if you used a more traditional font, I think that would be out of place with this image. It's a very, the sharp angles of the house, make me think of the sharp angles of this font. So something like that. You can just make it a little bit smaller to fit in. And everything is it's very intuitive. It can just be moved on the canvas. Oh, that sounds a bit expensive. Let's make it, let's reduce the price a little bit. And I'm just going to hope no stalkers are out there. I'm just going to give my address here. And maybe this color isn't the right one. What we could do, which is kind of cool, you can use this eyedropper to pick a color from the palette. So maybe this pool, that looks pretty good. And yeah, and then the image, of course. Just by the way, if you see on the top right here, it's quite important to understand the layers, and that just shows you everything that's on the template. If you've worked in Photoshop, which I guess many people might have, it's the same concept. So I'm going to, whoopsie, almost cropped it there. Just going to replace that image, and this will take me straight to Unsplash. So I was going to look for house, but I'm going for mansion instead because I want this to be impressive. There we go. That's where I live. And
not bad at all, let me tell you.
So something like that. And then, of course, this wouldn't, a real estate agent might not be the right brand to do it for, but I just want to show you, there's so many different types of graphics. Trying to think what might look good here. Problem is you sometimes get a little bit lost in the options. So let's just see what a house graphic pulls up. And then, yeah, maybe there's we can have our own logo that we can put in the corner there. Something like that. And then you can just export that either as a PNG or a JPEG. And then that should appear in my design editor. See? And yeah, so these are some of the projects I've created. They all stay saved there. Again, this isn't currently available, but I'm not sure exactly, but this year, in months, not years, there will be cross-sync across the web app and the mobile app. So you could start your project on your phone and pick it up later when you get home on your computer. And of course, all of these images can be instantly shared directly to social via the websites and marketing dashboard, or they can just be added to your picture collection on your websites. So I focused quite a lot on social media in this, but of course, you know, blog headers, Google ads, YouTube thumbnails, business cards, you know, all of that is possible. So perhaps, you know, what I hope to maybe have unlocked in some of the WordPress developers and designers is, you know, offering design as a service is perhaps something you can think about. If you can create the website and then create the logo too, and the colors and the graphics that go on the website, potentially that could expand your business. So yeah, there's a million things to do. I mean, I showed you how to work from a template, but you can of course work from scratch. If you want to create a logo, you work from a blank canvas. But I'm going to pause there because otherwise I'm just going to get too deep down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and we know how we can talk a lot. I mean, this is great. I didn't make any like visuals in over. Did videos. Actually, I did branded videos, and my experience is that it's so easy. I mean, it's like something very simple. James has a question. Is there any image bank of stock images?
Yes. So so it automatically it's linked to Unsplash. So as I understand it, it's the same as GoDaddy's websites and marketing. So you have access to Unsplash and Pixabay. That's just in visuals, and then there's also video content on the mobile app. And you know, because we have that API, it is all royalty free. So there's literally millions of images that you can choose and use without worrying. Yeah, that's
awesome. That's really good. So it's Unsplash, because here James asked whether it's imported from services such as Pixabay. So it's Unsplash in that sense.
Yes, and naturally
Awesome.
You can of course use your own images. I think in the mobile app, for example, if you select on an image, you can in fact just open it in Over and start editing there.
Yes.
And the same on the web. You can upload your own images. Yeah.
You mentioned videos. You can import videos or screen grabs from videos.
In the mobile product, yes. In the web product, very, very soon. So it doesn't really matter, you know, what format it is. I think it needs to be an MP4 format.
MP4.
Yeah.
Yes.
But whether that's a screen recording or your own video that you've made on your phone, or something, we do have a video library. So in the mobile product, and again, soon in the web product, there's also not just an image library, but a video library too. And we do have also video graphics that we have designed. So for example, if you want to have an Instagram story, and in the background, there's all these shapes that are moving, and, you know, more abstract animation stuff. We have that too. Interesting.
Interesting enough that Barry has another question for you. Why did Over get started as a mobile application? I mean, this is now thank you, James. We're more than welcome to answer any questions. So I mean, I'm sure you were not part of the decision-making board, or maybe you were when the app was created as a vision, but let's hear if you know. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question because I think it's well known that one of the biggest competitors in this market is Canva, and that started more web-based and then sort of migrated to mobile. So it may have had something to do that, but to be honest, I think from what I know of the mythology of Over's origins, it really had very humble beginnings. It was just about if you wanted to create a motivational post, like you put a picture and you say of a beautiful place and like, I can't wait to go here. It was really kind of super basic. And I think the thinking was that at that stage, it was just like you take a picture with your phone and you want to put a little bit of text on it, or you have a photo of your baby and you say 3 months old. So it started with really small ambitions. And I think as it grew and as the company grew, we started to unlock more and more potential, to the point that, again, I can't say too much now because it's happening soon, but Over's still expanding, and I think later in the year it's going to move out into sort of e-commerce and sort of very, very simple social media selling. So I can't say for sure, but I think it was just like a very simple idea that just snowballed. Is the short answer.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, nowadays everything comes as a startup, right? Especially when it comes to technology. So I think when people are actually making one project, they are not aware in which direction it might actually go. So by looking at the niche, the market niche that hasn't been covered, most probably, as you explained, that was the vision behind. But then so perhaps the others went the other way, you went the opposite way, but still you guys are reaching the same place, right? So you're offering both web and mobile application. And James, he swears this time that this is his last question, saying that yeah, please bring it on, bring it on. So is there story support planned?
Story support for web.
Let's see, James, if you'd like, I will make you a James, I will make you in presenters mode. So perhaps if you'd like, you might want to join our screen, and then similar to Instagram stories. Oh, here it is. Hi, James.
Hey. Yeah. So I've been playing around and it looks really, really cool. I'm just wondering if you can make different frames, or is that planned similar to I suppose you could say like a GIF.
Yes. So.
Even.
Oh, like a GIF.
Or some sort of stories. You could swipe even.
Yeah. So again, in the mobile app, that exists. It's called Pages. And essentially, it's default, like in any canvas that you go into, you can tap a button and it'll duplicate that page or make a new page, and that's sort of endless. So that's obviously designed for Instagram stories. You don't want to create one at a time. You want to create your entire sequence. So yeah, that currently is in I think both versions of the mobile app, and coming very soon to web. And I think the exciting potential there, just to touch on what Maya mentioned at the beginning with video, is I think there's a whole new world to be discovered now when, stories has been around for a few years, but when we start having sort of video scenes, and you're swiping from not just a picture to a picture, but from a scene to a scene, you almost start to, create these like small little movies. And I think there's a lot of potential for brands there. So that's something you can do in the mobile app today and in the web app very soon.
James, stay please. I have a question for you. Very specific questions you have towards this type of softwares. Is there any software that you're using similar or looking like that?
Actually, you always use software called Fireworks. Then Adobe bought Fireworks. It used to be Macromedia. Then Adobe bought it and discontinued it. For me, it's like 10 years old. But I still like it more than Photoshop because it's faster. And I'm not a full-time designer, so something like this would suit me.
Well, I think what's interesting is like when I first came across over when I started working, you know, I would often describe it as like a Photoshop Lite. It's like, it's a very simple version of that. But I think the big benefit is, of course, the pre-existing graphics and templates. So if in Photoshop you want to create a speech bubble or like a rain effect or a thunderbolt or a banner or something like that, you've got to know how to create that from scratch, versus just sort of importing one of 50 different banner graphics that you can just work with. So it's almost sometimes compare it a bit more to like being a DJ than a producer. You know, you're not like making the music from scratch per se, but you're like taking the different elements and remixing it into something.
Yeah, that's what I'm on the web app at the moment, and I like that idea. It's not going to take up all the memory of my computer as well. I can just, you know, it's not like Photoshop. So looks good.
You'll love it. You will see. I'm using it for a year already, and it saved me. Also, I have a Photoshop for some other stuff, but this is so easy. You know, it's wrong if you have your own template that you can use. You just constantly just tend to change the color and text, and that's it. So it's seriously, I love it. Seriously, from my point of view. Any other questions?
So
While you're online?
For me, it's sometimes it becomes a bit of a game if I'm waiting at the doctor's office or sitting waiting for someone. Instead of playing a game, I'll just, you know, create something, and, you know, for no rhyme or reason, but it does become quite addictive when you start to dig into all the graphics and just play around for the sake of it. I think we're all creative beings deep down.
We are. If James, if you would have any question, I mean, now is the time to ask it.
Yeah, I'm going to play around with it. Like I said, I've been using Fireworks for a long time. I have tried other ones. So for me, and one of the reasons I asked is, can you do the stories, like swipe, make lots of different ones? It's the way things are going, really. It's
Yeah, try the free version of the mobile app just to get you started, and see if it hooks you enough to upgrade.
yeah, but there's one question there that, now that you do say that, I have been looking at the pricing, and it says it's free for GoDaddy customers as well. Does that include the mobile app?
Yes. Yeah. So that's again, we're kind of we're getting very close to kind of a two-way SSO integration, which has been sort of an ongoing project. And at that point, existing GoDaddy customers will now have access to Over, and Over customers will now have access to some of the websites and marketing stuff that GoDaddy does. So I think it's going to be great. It's like a really mutually beneficial addition for both groups of customers.
Nice.
Awesome. I really like what I'm hearing, seriously. I see so many positive reactions, which is great. If we would have, I mean, we should wrap up if we don't have any more questions. I don't know if there are any more questions coming from the audience. I don't see anything anywhere, so we'll keep just a couple of more minutes, see perhaps people would still have anything to ask. In the meantime, Dylan, how was the presentation? Was it stressful enough?
Yeah, I mean, they always are, I guess. And it's more stressful because I don't know who I'm talking to. I literally just was talking into my screen, and I know James is there. I know you are there, but that's all I have to work with.
No, it was a great presentation, seriously, among one of the top 5 presentations that we had here, especially how visually you presented and the effort and the emotion that you wanted to transfer on us. It was so there. So I think you did a great job as a speaker, and I think we should award you. And Kim is also saying that she's very happy with what was going on tonight, and that she's thankful to you. So we are all thankful to you. I'm thankful to every one of you, first of all, for taking the time to come and join us, and second of all, to support Dylan in actually changing the world to a better place. Our next GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup will take place next Monday. We will be talking with James. James will be talking about Core Web Google Core Web Vitals, and we'll be talking about the content, the winning content, how content can actually, what type of content we have, and how to make the best strategy for the content. So if you'd like, please sign up for this event, and we will be more than happy to host you again. And until next time, thank you very much.